Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
You got Luke.
Luke, today we're joined by a special guest, Daniel Brateris, the Director of Experience-Based Learning at Newark College of Engineering at the New Jersey Institute of Technology. Dan, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, James. Hey, Luke. How you doing?
Great, thank you.
So for the record, everyone that's listening, James totally butchered Dan's last name, and we have an outtake that you're not hearing right now that was quite funny. Just putting that out there.
I thought you were going to throw me under the bus for all of my New Jersey hate that I've given over the years.
Oh, man.
I don't mean it. It's just all in good fun, I swear. All right, Dan.
I love New Jersey.
Everyone who lives there seems to, so I guess maybe it is, an okay place.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It sounds like, from what I've read, you basically have the coolest job in the world. You wear a whole lot of hats, but before we get into exactly what that is, tell us a bit about yourself, like your education and how you manage this sweet gig. And, do you like cats or dogs or whatever we should know?
Sure. Well, I love cats and dogs, but I have a dog. His name's Duke. Great dog, but he's more of a cat, actually.
Okay.
He doesn't fetch or anything like that. But yeah, so my education, I have a master's in electrical engineering, and I'm working on a doctorate. And yeah, I'm a sailor, a surfer. I spend my summers at the beach, and I just love building things. I mean, my whole career is based on building things. I've run a consulting company where basically I fabricate things for people, design things for people, and that has kind of brought me into the kind of job that I work on, where I basically help students build things, help students learn the practical side of engineering.
That's very cool.
I have to say, James, this is when we interview people.
I know.
I feel really bad about myself.
I know.
Because it's like, could we ever interview someone that was less successful than us?
Maybe we need to start working on that.
So much more successful than us. So I do have a question. You mentioned that you had this consultancy. So you would it was prototyping, or I'm trying to get a sense.
Yeah.
For what the company was.
So in college, I had a couple friends of mine that were. Yeah. So in college, I started this company, and a few friends of mine started, and basically we tried to build a product and it failed. We just failed. We're way in over our heads. But now we had a company, and we learned a lot of stuff, and people and industry contacts kind of said, "Hey, you guys know about this? You worked with us with this chip or this product, and I got someone that wants to use it. You guys know how to use it." And so we kind of rolled that into a company that basically focused around helping people utilize products we were already familiar with, and it came into basically prototyping. So someone had an idea. Some of them were Bluetooth related, some of them were LED and lighting related. And we just started building prototypes and proof of concept designs for people and helping them, get into typically a place where they could present a product to an investor and say, "Hey, look, here's a functioning prototype," and get some secondary capital. And then sometimes we help with manufacturing and getting into that production phase, which is typically a pretty big step for people.
That's awesome.
The other question I had, and we can jump into the rest of the questions after this one, James, I have to ask. So you said you have a master's in electrical engineering. We won't hold that against you.
Yeah.
But you said you're going for a doctorate. I have to assume if you're getting a doctorate in electrical engineering, you have to invent something like what does a doctorate in electrical engineering actually do?
Yeah. So in the STEM fields, doctorates are typically, you have to research something that's new, right? It can be a new process, a new way to think about something, a new way to prove something. So I'm at the very beginning of my studies in the doctorate. So right now I have a couple ideas, and I'm starting to put those ideas together into what will be my research proposal to my committee. So haven't quite gotten there yet, but we have a couple things revolving around machine vision, some things related to education in electrical engineering. Haven't quite settled on one yet, but hopefully in the next couple months it'll become clear for me. But
Okay.
It's the hardest part about a doctorate is you have to really know what you want to work on, because a doctorate is very narrow. It's a very small, narrow area.
Mm-hmm.
And my job is, the whole definition of what I do daily is broad. I mean, there's no tiny little specifics in what I do every day. It's this and then that, and it's every day looks different. So
gotcha. Okay.
Luke, we're supposed to know the value of a doctorate in engineering as the voices of all things STEM here.
I understand. I'm good.
Okay. Quick follow up on that, Dan. So my brother got his master's in industrial engineering, and it was basically nothing more than him being allowed to stay at school for 2 more years. Do you think your master's was that, or was it valuable?
No, my master's was very valuable. It was very challenging, and for my master's, I was working on electrical measurement. So I was studying particular ways to measure electrical quantities like voltage and current. And I was looking at new ways to integrate those into mobile type devices. So I did a lot of metrology, a lot of measurement, and a lot of design for it. So it was very valuable for me. It certainly wasn't a just show up and a couple of years later you get a master's. It was quite rigorous.
And I'm guessing when you say measure like electricity, you're not just going to Lowe's or Home Depot and getting a little voltage meter. Like you're doing like real scientific measurement of.
Yeah, so you're looking at. So one of the big things is that with measurement, you have, especially with things like that, I actually was working on those kind of meters, but there's all sorts of things you can't avoid, like voltages create distance, so you have to have certain kinds of gaps in distance, otherwise, voltages will arc and things like that. So we were looking at ways to miniaturize some of that circuitry and do it also in a way where you could design small chips and measurement devices that were very portable and much smaller than the current kind of devices when you get them at like Home Depot or Lowe's right now.
Gotcha.
So it was a lot of fun though. We ended up building this Bluetooth enabled little voltmeter that you could it was like the size of a pen. So it was pretty neat at the time. Yeah.
Nice. Last thing EE related, I'm very open about this on the show. EE 305 at Penn State. My one and only electrical engineering course was almost the one that kept me from getting my engineering degree. I'm gonna leave that there.
Man. Right. So I taught a similar course like that, and so were you a mechanical engineer or
mechanical engineer? And just I don't know if parallel got in my way, or I don't know what I couldn't wrap my little brain around, but it did not work. The professor certainly, I think, felt pity for me and gave me a C so that I could be on my way and do my thing. All right, Dan. So your job that we're actually here to talk about.
Yeah.
It involves all sorts of awesome stuff. Baja SAE. We've done an episode on Formula SAE. Pretty cool stuff.
Cool.
You're running a makerspace. You're helping encourage students to pursue careers in STEM. Join curriculums in STEM, as well as then, getting jobs afterwards. You also have really cool stuff like I saw it was like Aero SAE and a robotics club and all of this awesome stuff going on. So what does a day in your life at work look like right now? And try not to make us too jealous.
Yeah. So a day for me is, it's all over the place. Typically what we end up seeing happens is that things come in little pockets, right? So one day we're working on a problem that a team has, or working on how to get more students to choose STEM careers. It's it's a blend of everything. So, but a typical day for me, I show up on campus. I go around to some of the labs that we supervise, like the Makerspace and other hands-on engineering labs around campus. And then I go to my office and I sort through emails. But a lot of it is trying to make sure that all these things that we're putting in motion to make sure that there is an active hands-on engineering at the school are all working. So the administrative side sometimes is boring. It's finding money for things. It's getting other people to agree that this is a good place to spend our money. But most of the day is advocating for all those things. So, hey, we have a student team, they want to do this, let's find a way to support them. We have a professor that wants to teach this kind of thing in their class, so let's figure out how to support them. And then the biggest project that I've been working on is that makerspace. So I started at NJIT about 7 years ago, and we didn't have that space, and that's kind of been my project since we got there. And I started there as a lecturer, just teaching basically all day, every day, just teach. The hardest thing for me, someone that grew up building things, grew up with with my dad in his wood shop and things like that, when someone comes to you and says, hey, I got this idea, I want to build it, and you don't have a place to help them. So that was where NJIT was about 10 years ago. And so basically my daily job has been to solve that problem, is to say, now, when you come to somewhere like NJIT, but specifically there, students have all the resources they need to investigate those things that they're interested in, to take the science that they're learning and turn it into reality. And as an educator, and I think other people on our faculty and staff feel this way too, you can learn a lot of engineering by doing calculations, simulating things, but if you don't understand how to put that into practice, you're missing something, and so the more we can spread out what we do, I think the better engineers will make, and the better that will be for our country and all of our futures.
Can you talk a little bit more about this makerspace? James listed a couple of stats and kind of how this has come together over the years. And specifically, what are some of your favorite pieces of equipment that you have in the shop?
Sure. Yeah. So we have about a 10,000 square foot makerspace, and we're about to double that. Actually, I think in about a week, the new building will open. So
does that mean you are going to have the toys to go along with that space to fill it
we
up?
got some of the toys to go along with the new space, but the new space is the current space is a very nice looking, very industrial shop, and it's got a lot of stuff that's like maker spaces. Like it's got collaboration areas and open floor plans and things that really help people collaborate. But it's also a little intimidating, when you walk into a $500,000 water jet sitting in front of you. It's awesome. But if you're a student that didn't have shop in high school or something like that, it's quite daunting to walk into that space. So the new space we're building, which I think will open in a couple days, actually. We normally have a big opening, but with all this COVID stuff, we've got like a fraction of the people on campus that we normally would have. So I think we're kind of just going to say, hey, it's open, and we'll celebrate in a couple months. But the whole point of this new building is to soften the appearance of things, actually. So it's a lot more welcoming. There's nice furniture, places to sit down with a notebook, with your laptop. There's collaboration rooms, all that kind of stuff. And it's a good complement to the industrial side that we have. And so, like, I'd say, like, my favorite machine probably is that water jet. One of the reasons I love it is not that it can do everything. It's just it's such a massive machine, and it is so easy to use. I mean, you can take a student that has very little fabrication knowledge, and you can run them through the setup and operation of this machine in 20 minutes. And if you are confident that they are at least a cautious person, you can be pretty confident that they'll be safe operating it.
Yeah.
So it even though it's massive and in a way very dangerous, you can kind of pull those barriers back from people to show them, hey, all this stuff, even though it's big, if you take your time, it doesn't have to be that scary, and they can learn something and make something in a matter of 15, 20 minutes, and that blows students' minds that have never done that before. You see your CAD drawing, you see a real piece of metal, and 10 minutes later you're holding it. It is a new world for people that haven't done that before. Mm-hmm. So I love that machine. I mean, I love 3D printers and mills and all that stuff, but that machine is it's so fast to go from concept to part that I don't know. I can't get better than it.
I feel like 3D printers are all the rage. We talk about them a lot on our show, but like, I don't know, for being cool, exciting stuff, I don't think you can beat like a CNC machine milling something away, or like a water jet just like crushing out and crushing through anything you put in its way. They're really fascinating pieces of machinery.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we had a makerspace here in Pittsburgh a while back, and you had to get certified to use any of the equipment ahead of time before they'd let you run it by yourself. And I remember looking at the water jet, and I was like, yeah, maybe I don't want to, run that piece of equipment all by myself. But then we did this thing with some coworkers where we actually went to a shop, and we were actually running a piece of like a high-end piece of CNC equipment. And if you go through the right steps, it's actually, to your point, it's not nearly as intimidating as it seems to be once you've gone through the training and you understand all the safety protocols and everything that happens. And I know I felt a whole lot better working with really big, expensive equipment after that. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
I saw that you're able to have people just sign up and come use the machinery as well. So you don't have to be a student to work there. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's mostly students and faculty and staff right now. But we right now it's kind of a case by case basis.
Mhm.
That place is only about 3 years old. And it's been a massive lift to get it up and operational. So our plan is to fully sort of have memberships and run training courses that the general public can come to. Like we just put in a wood shop, and we already have people asking us, hey, you're going to run a wood shop training course, we want to come to it. And so I think within a couple months, hopefully when COVID procedures ramp down a little bit, and I think we'll find ourselves really focusing on that public usage again. We were just getting there last March,
Yeah.
and everything just changed. So, but yeah, we do a lot with the public in terms of we bring in high school teachers and train them on some equipment that they might not have, so they can get experience with it. We'll do trainings on things they do have, so we'll teach them basic CAD and basic 3D, printing best practices and things like that. And then we have done a couple like sort of workforce development courses where we, teach specific skills that, manufacturers and people in the area are looking for. So we've found that's really helpful. And I think we're just right around the corner from having, hey, I need to come in and use this. All right, come in. It's $10 an hour for this or whatever, and we'll train you on it. And that's all in our best interest. The more people that know about us, the more people that utilize what we have, and that can also help us offset our costs a little bit.
Sure.
Running a space like that is not cheap.
The toys aren't cheap, and running it isn't either.
Absolutely not. So I'll say the heaviest lift when we were trying to get the space built was basically a completely convincing everyone at the university that this was worth the amount of money it was going to cost.
Yeah.
No one disagreed with hands-on stuff is good, but telling them what we could do, showing what it could do, and the impact, and getting it to basically be, look, this is how we want to do business, and this is a baseline cost of operation for us. It's like keeping the lights on. It took a while, but I think now it's a flagship part of our university, and people come to NJIT just because they know we have it, and I think that was the right choice. So
I certainly would have loved to have been more hands-on with my education at Penn State. I don't think it was really quite a thing then, but boy, it would have been really helpful.
So quick question. So before we started recording, you said you liked my Fusion 360 shirt.
Yeah.
We saw that I guess online you guys list that you use, or you guys teach a Fusion 360 course. Could you give us the details on that a little bit?
Sure. So we're a little disclaimer, we're a public university, so we're not like typically allowed to like particularly endorse anything in specific, but I will tell you that Fusion 360 has I think for what we do, it has the best complement of features that we can find, and they're we're kind of agnostic when it comes to what software. Like we use SolidWorks, we use Creo, we use ProE, we use Mastercam, we use Esprit, all that stuff. But our main goal is students. Our main goal is to get students to learn and do things. And Fusion is great software, and we teach students to use it. And the reason that we typically advocate for it is that they can get a license of it themselves, put it on their computer, and then they can go tinker with it and learn it on their own. If I get someone doing that in SolidWorks or Creo, they got to come to a campus computer lab to do it. So usually if we ask the student, we tell them, hey, look, which one would you prefer? And you tell them, you can put this on your own computer. There's no question. That's what they want. So typically we do teach in Fusion, and but as a campus, we use all those different softwares. But Fusion for us has, I think, really enabled, it's enabled us to help students do a lot because everything's all in one spot. And when they go from like CAD to simulation to manufacturing, they're kind of still on the same interface. So I think that Autodesk kind of has made the right choice there, because it's not like it's the flagship modeling software, but it does enough for a lot of projects. And yeah, so we really like it, and it really helps our students excel, especially the ones that this is something new, when they've never CAD modeled before, but they need to learn a powerful package. So it's powerful enough for most of those projects, and when they need to make something, those tools are there. So it really helps us.
Yeah. So before we go on any more with Fusion 360, Makerspaces, or anything else fun, let's take a break for a word from our sponsor.
Do we have one this week, James?
No, sadly, nobody's ponying up the cash yet.
So
but I thought,
Dan,
we
have
was
a
a
guest.
good shot. Yeah,
we have a guest, and maybe he should. What's your bank account look like there, Dan? Maybe.
Oh man, I could probably sponsor a little bit.
$10, $10-20.
Yeah, I could do that.
Love it. Dan, tell us a little bit about how people can learn more about what you're doing at NJIT, how they could get involved. Is there places that they could donate to the Makerspace? Can they go sign up to try and apply to school? Anything like that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so for the Makerspace, you go to njitmakerspace.com. And from there, you could make a donation to the Makerspace. We would love that. But you can also get links to, NJIT's homepage there, which is njit.edu. And if you go there, you can go to the Newark College of Engineering, and then you can see all the programs that we support there. So, we have the full suite of, I think, basically with the exception, we don't have like nuclear engineering like that, but we have chemical, biomedical, electrical, computer, most of the major engineering disciplines.
No civil, right?
We have civil.
Oh, darn.
Yeah. We also have, which is a little unique, we also have a really strong applied engineering school at NJIT. And we do some of the Makerspace administration through that school. Those are typically, some places in the country, those are known as engineering technology programs. Here they're fairly rigorous. The math isn't quite at the level of some of the pure engineering degrees, but they're still very rigorous programs. And most of them, the students can still get professional engineers licenses and stuff if they graduate. But they, so they're not like trade school or technology degrees. We're trying to call them applied engineering degrees. So, students who are really good with, maybe mechanical or electrical concepts, but aren't up to taking, partial differential equations, they'll take more applied versions of that math so that they learn the theory behind it, but maybe they don't have to be as mathematically proficient, but they'll still take a lot of math. But they're more applied engineerings that focus a little bit more on the application and a little bit less on the theory. And they're working really well for us. It's a good complement. We have very strong programs in kind of both of those areas, in the pure engineerings and in the applied engineerings. And it so far it's serving us very, very well. So
for any of you who are listening who might have more questions about what Dan's doing, what he's talking about, I know I always get a lot of emails about engineering versus like a tech engineering degree. Things have really changed, so make sure you're doing your research there. This is all great, but feel free to reach out with your questions at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. All right, so moving on a little more, Dan. You have all sorts of cool projects going on. I said like Aero SAE, you have solar car racing, which is super cool. Baja, you have robotics clubs. What's your favorite out of all these? Are you allowed to pick?
Yes, I'm definitely allowed to pick. So I'm an electrical engineer, so you'd think maybe solar car was mine, which I really love the solar car. We have actually the students that work on that at NJIT right now are phenomenal, very, very dedicated. But my favorite is Baja, and so I'm the advisor for that team. So that's where my favoritism comes from. But the reason I love Baja is it's like real racing. I don't know if you guys have ever had the chance to go to one of those events. I mean, we're not having them in, well, I think they're having races in person this year, but not like what they normally do. But when I went about 10 years ago to the first one I went to, I didn't envision it was what it was, so there were these like, hey, we're gonna race 2 cars head to head and see how they do. But then on the last day, man, they put like 120 cars all together on a motocross track, and they raced for like 4 or 5 hours. And I mean, students come out covered, I mean, head to toe, like the kind of mud that takes like 5 showers to get off. And they just race, like, and it's fun, and it's brutal, and the cars and the students that make it through, man, they actually, like, they should feel really proud. So I love it. I mean, you got students communicating with radios, pit crews. It's enough that our university allows our team, them to be an athletic team, basically, on our campus.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're all engineers, so maybe there's a limit there, but the race is brutal, and it's a real team sport, actually. So that's what I love. I love it. You go and you watch these races, and it's crazy.
So speaking of the Baja, so what kind of separates the Baja? So Formula, obviously, these things look like kind of miniature Formula cars. I'm assuming that, like, when I think of like the Baja 1000, these are like super trucks. Is it basically the same kind of thing? It's a scaled down version that has like some maximum horsepower, maximum sizes that they have to deal with, and it's just a small vehicle.
Yeah, so the one that they've been building for I think about the past 10 years or so, is a single engine, 4-wheel off-road vehicle, single passenger, and they give them specs. So the engineering is actually quite challenging. It wouldn't be that challenging if you could put a 60 horsepower engine in that thing, but they give you like a 10 horsepower, basically a glorified lawnmower engine, and so every ounce counts, and as you're lightweighting things, you make them more likely to break. So the engineering is actually quite challenging. The teams that win typically get their 10 horsepower car to get to like 45, 50 miles an hour. So like, it's pretty impressive. So they got knobby tires, a full suspension, a roll cage, and they're not like, they don't look like trucks like the Baja 1000.
More like a dune
vehicles.
buggy, probably.
Yeah, but they look more like a dune buggy. Yeah,
I gotcha.
It's quite the spectacle, and and also to do it safely is a lot of responsibility. But the SAE does a wonderful job running it, and the students have a great time competing in it. And these teams, they really help our students job wise. When you go to an interview, and it's your first interview, and you're the person interviewing asks you, what have you done? Well, if you can pull out a set of plans and say, well, look, I designed that part, and then I made that part, and then it went on that vehicle, and then that vehicle did a 4-hour endurance race, and I was part of that team. It's a conversation starter and a demonstration of some skill that I think helps those students a lot. And I think on those teams, that helps a lot across the board. You're a step ahead of everyone else if you've done something real when you get out of your your undergraduate. So I think we get employers that come to us and say, look, I want to see all the students with this GPA in this major, and then I want to speak to everyone on the Baja team or everyone on the solar car team, because they know that there's some real practical experience that those students have.
That's so outstanding. So my next question was going to be about, how does stuff like this help a student land a job or stand out from the crowd? I think you've done a great job of describing that one, but all the SAEs, robotics clubs, FIRST Robotics for some of our younger listeners, these are all things that Luke and I suggest to them when they write in, like, get involved with this stuff, especially if you're like, well, not like me, but like Luke, and you have like a 1.2 GPA, like having something like that on your resume really sets you apart. People see that you have that hands-on experience, and it can really be the difference between, your resume just getting thrown in another pile and being one that gets picked out. It's really important, in my opinion, for you to do as much.
I completely agree with that. I think that having a credential that's not a paper credential, that is, I was able to do something, and you can show it, is really important or really helpful.
Yeah. So one last thing that I wanted to make sure that we talk to you about is that I saw it mentioned that you have something to do with a pretty amazing Christmas light show. And the rumor has it that it's one of the best in the country. And it's not just like you telling me this, but Good Morning America even says so. And my good friend, longtime listener of the show, Michael Strahan, would not lie to me. So tell me about this Christmas light show.
Yeah, so everyone knows this about me. I mean, it's a big part of my life, but it, it probably actually helped me get my job at NJIT. But
See, hands
so
on.
yeah, all right. So about God, like 15 years ago, when I was an undergrad, I had a couple friends and we were just building stuff. And I used to run a DJ company. I still kind of do, but I don't
Okay.
do a whole lot with it anymore. And I never wanted to be an entertainer or a DJ like for my whole career. And the biggest reason I didn't want to do that is quickly you find that you're working when all your friends are not. Friday nights, Saturday nights, you're always working. So I used the money from that job to kind of pay for some of my college and stuff. And in the holidays, when I wanted to be home with my friends and family, all my gear sat dormant for like a month and a half. And one year we decided, you know what, we got lights, we got lasers, we got foggers. Let's put it all on a house, put some Christmas lights on it and see if we can make something really cool. And we called some local radio stations and lo and behold, we got on like a morning show of a big local radio station, and the next night like 1,000 people showed up to our house.
So cool.
And believe it or not, when we pressed play, nothing worked that night.
Of course not.
Oh my
and you
God,
tested it 20 times before.
Exactly.
But, yeah.
And so the next year we promised all the people that helped us that, look, we got all the problems figured out, and we did get it working about 15 minutes later.
Okay.
But it was like the most stressful 15 minutes of my life. And the next year we realized we could have a crowd like that, and we invited friends of ours who run a charity for children that have disabilities. It helps them participate in sporting leagues and things like that. We invited them, and they walked around with buckets, and man, they collected like $3,000 or something.
Wow.
On the first time. And then so we've been working with them every year since. We hold these like concert-like events on different houses with all these like Christmas lights and now flamethrowers and all sorts of wacky inventions that we've made. And now we get crowds of like several thousand people per night. And we're in the tens of thousands of money that we donate every year to these causes. So
wow.
yeah,
That's
it's
fantastic.
been an awesome ride. It's been a lot of work, but it's been a lot of fun. It's been like, something that ties all my friends and family together. It's like, this is what we do every year. Put all our effort into this, and we make the world a better place, and we give some great like free entertainment to our local community.
So once again, James, you've managed to land an interview for us, where not only is he smarter than us, but he's a far better person than us.
All of this, and he did it all before he even got out of college, and he was still better. Like it hurts a little.
So James, what's your idea of a light show at your house?
Remembering to turn the lights on at night
is
basically as far as I get.
I have a pre-lit Christmas tree that goes on my porch, and I plug it in. That's as sophisticated as I get.
Whose idea was it then, Dan, to say, you know what this awesome Christmas light show needs is giant flamethrowers?
Yeah,
nothing says Christmas like flamethrowers.
That had to be me.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, have you guys ever seen or heard of Trans-Siberian Orchestra?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think we got the idea from them. So we actually, a friend of ours, the first Christmas show was actually on his house. His cousin was a vocalist for Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Oh.
So we, when he was a vocalist, we had never seen them, but we had heard their music, and we'd used it on one of the houses, and we went to see them. And I don't know who gave them the idea, but man, they put on a pyrotechnic show like you've never seen.
Yes.
And so a couple of years we're just like, nah, there's no way we can do that. There's no way we can do that. And then it was like, you know what, I bet we can do that. And I spent a couple of months designing, some flamethrower nozzles and control systems, and Yeah, and now that's been like the hallmark of our show. So people come to see the giant columns of fire.
Luke, would you
Nice.
trust a home built flamethrower that you designed?
Absolutely not.
No.
I imagine the police and the fire department would be at my house almost
So
instantaneously.
here's the interesting thing about that. You might think that like the fire department would know a lot about that, and we are huge supporters of our law enforcement and fire department, and they help us every year to pull off this big event in a residential neighborhood. But the fire department comes and they check for safety, but they don't have a clue how these things work.
Sure.
So
sure.
we always end up having to be like, look, thank you, and they check for leaks and they make sure we got the right kind of fire extinguisher and all this stuff. But we always have to give them a little bit of like, look, this is how it's made safe, this is how it's designed, and it's always a very good mutual relationship there. They know how to help us control the crowds and create safety zones and have the right extinguishing equipment and the right people on standby, and we know how to help them get comfortable with the fact that we know what we're doing. So
it's like the t-shirt.
It's always a good
Trust
relationship.
Trust me, I'm an engineer.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Awesome. Well, Dan, we're running out of time here, but I did want to give you a chance here at the end to, again, remind people how they could reach out either to learn more about NJIT, the Makerspace, how they could get involved, or anything else out there that they should be checking out after the episode.
Sure. So, I mean, I'll just use that opportunity to say two things. So one, you can check out NJIT or the Makerspace by going to njitmakerspace.com. And the other thing is, my whole job is to advocate for students and people to choose STEM careers and to learn to build things. And I would say that, if you haven't or you're interested in it, building things is like one of the great joys of life. Taking an idea of yours, bring it into reality. And if you become an engineer and you learn to do that, and you go to a school like NJIT that helps you learn to do that, you can really help make the world a better place. And whether that's in biomechanical engineering or electrical engineering or mechanical or civil, learning to build things and take these great ideas is just it's a great joy of life, and it's what makes engineers a great profession. So if you're a student listening, think about STEM careers, and if you're already an engineer, I hope we keep doing great things and making the world a better place.
Awesome. Very well said. Now, I said that we were about done. I have one more question. You said you were a DJ. Did you have a DJ name?
Yeah, I had the lamest DJ name around because I started in 7th grade. I was DJ Dan.
DJ Dan. All right. Well, I hope everybody listening enjoyed our time with DJ Dan. Good stuff. A lot of great programs going on. Again, check out njitmakerspace.com for more information. If you feel more comfortable talking to me, because why wouldn't you want to talk to me? Feel free to email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. Dan, thanks a lot for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Super
it was great
fun,
talking, guys.
really interesting. Luke,
until next time.
See ya.
Take care.